Good morning. Welcome to Unity of West Texas Unity Spiritual Center, located on 42nd Street in Odessa, across the street from Target in the Santa Fe Square Shopping Center. Our talk today is going to be There Is a Time by Janie Garms, who is our president. And Janie, you're on.
Good morning, and it's good to have you here this morning. It's beautiful weather here in Odessa, and the talk this morning is A Time for Everything. And indeed, that is true. There's a musical group called the Byrds, back in the 60s, I think. They put together a song using the words of King Solomon, Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 8. I know that many of you know this musical version. But let me read the words of poetry that King Solomon put to pen. And will just allow their beauty to infuse you with a time of reflection. Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and still yet a time of peace. So, as those words touch your heart, hopefully, this message will touch you in a way today that will leave you with a new heart about things. Maybe some new ideas and a plan to move forward on your journey or to make new plans. In any case, I think this talk today is going to leave you with something to think about. So these last few months, year and a half or more, have been really hard on most of us one way or another. I mean, all over the world, we've had profound changes in our lives, in the way we think about things and how we do things. We've all been touched by it. Whole industries have had to rethink the way they've been operating before the pandemic, how they're going to continue after the pandemic. A few of them, what about transportation, the restaurant business, commercial food operations, the medical industry? Who would have thought nurses would be furloughed during a pandemic? Kind of a really strange thought, but it happened. And it was the way that things were playing out during this very difficult time for all of us. Needless to say, these times knocked a few of us out of our comfort zones, and rather hard, as a matter of fact. That's the funny thing about change. It's an inevitable part of life. If we aren't changing, we aren't living. That's life. And indeed, there is a time for everything. So there's an old adage that's been around for a while. It goes something like this. When life gives you lemons, what is it? Make lemonade. As Dale Carnegie put it, it's not what happens to you, it's how you handle it. Not a direct quote, but pretty close. And then there's that Tao lesson on the farmer who worked with his crops for many years. He had a horse, and the horse ran away. The people got together and, whoa, bad luck. The farmer said, maybe. And then the horse came back, and he brought 3 new horses. And the people all said, "Oh, but that was lucky." He said, "Maybe." And then the farmer's son went to tame one of the horses and fell off and broke his leg. And the people said, "Oh no, that is surely unlucky." And the farmer said, "Maybe." And then the military came looking for young, able-bodied men, and they were to put them into their service. And the young man was no longer able-bodied, therefore he was able to stay with his father. And the people said, "Oh, that's good." And the farmer said, "Maybe." You get the story. We can go on and on about that. It's a matter of taking things as they come, without assigning either good or bad to the outcome. It just is. It's a life, a natural rhythm, an ending and a beginning. Ever changing, ever expanding, ever shrinking. This kind of makes me think of the universe. We live in a place made of billions of galaxies with billions more stars. It's mind-boggling. It's really more than our human mind can begin to truly understand, to the depths of the understanding. According to the Big Bang Theory, we started out less than this, and that bang created everything else. I don't know. But I know one thing, I'm not big enough to tell God how to do it. He can do it any way He wants to, and I'm okay with that. What I do know is that while I'm speaking today, new stars are being created. And while the older ones are failing, soon to explode into a nuclear mix that when they explode will create a whole new plethora of stars. That is going on. That is change. I think this thing called life is really fantastic. It's pretty special. Life is consciousness. For the human, life is consciousness. And we were created by something greater than us, for sure. Of course, the farmer would say, maybe. That's the thing. We really don't understand a lot about a whole lot when it comes down to it. It's more than most of us can comprehend. But the fact that we can't even figure it all out does give rise to big questions. And it teaches us to search for answers. And that's what we are about. We're searching for answers. We don't have them all. In the end, we know another thing. We know that change is inevitable. King Solomon obviously knew this when he wrote those famous lines in Ecclesiastes. And for all the magnificence of the universe, here we sit on this big, beautiful, blue planet. To everything there is a season, and a time, and a purpose to everything under heaven. So here we go to the point of this whole message. We are so busy with the busyness of our lives that we may not take time to listen to that still, small voice. Some call it a calling. In the book Callings by Gregg Levoy, which, by the way, it's a really good book if you feel stuck in any way in your life, in any way that you feel like I'm not really comfortable here and I can't seem to move forward. It really is a book that helps you come to terms with change. In his book, Levoy explains, many of the pitfalls that come into play when we hear a need to move on. I'm sure that you probably know some of these. And before I get into them, you got to know that sometimes it takes a big event to shoot us out of our old way of doing things. Kind of like those stars that collapse and recreate a whole new galaxy. So, here's some personal examples. Maybe you've been uncomfortable in a job for a while and you've contemplated going elsewhere, but you just can't feel comfortable leaving. You can't justify leaving your safe, comfortable place. I mean, you're familiar with it anyway. Even if you're not that comfortable, at least you're familiar. And then you find out that something like the company has restructured, and suddenly you're without a job. And at that point, it feels like at that point, you can't see the future. You don't know what it holds for you. But the truth is, your dream job may actually be around the corner. It may actually be waiting for you, something that you've had a calling for a long time. Maybe you've been thinking about writing a book, but you fear what people will think. You may have been thinking of writing that book, but you've got naysayers around you. I don't know. I don't think you know how to write a book. Still, the call is too loud, and you take that unfamiliar plunge. And you join a writing group with others who inspire and support you. You may never write the big, bang book, but the point is, get out of your familiarity and your fears, and you move forward, and you join people who are no longer naysayers, but people who support you and encourage you in your dream. So that is a move forward. All it takes is the first step. One last example. You might say, it's too late for me. I'm too old. Can't follow my dream. Maybe you wanted to be an actress, but now that you no longer have the responsibilities of your children, that could be a possibility. Starts kind of forming in your mind. That creative substance starts coming together. What do? You join a theater group, maybe a local theater group, but you're doing what you love, and it seems to take that place of that empty nest for you. You've quit using the excuses, and you've moved on to something new, and it could be just that simple. There are a lot of things in Gregg Levoy's book, that he talks about that get in the way of moving us forward in life. I mean, for instance, sometimes it's just patience. We're just so darn impatient with the world, and we need to stop and listen. But there is really no joy to playing small to our callings. Playing small doesn't do us any good. According to Marianne Williamson, a famous quote, "We're afraid of our own power. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, but our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not darkness, that most frightens us. But our playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you." So maybe you've got more to offer than you ever dreamed of, or than you ever allowed yourself to dream of. When we let go of the shore, there's always a measure of uneasiness and insecurity. We all know that. But swimming does require some effort. It requires an understanding of water, buoyancy, forces of movement, pressure, and understanding our own strength and capabilities. And it's really through experience and introspection that we understand, and that is what sets us apart and supports us. So, finally, whatever hardships or trials you may be facing, Just take time to gather up your courage and strength and go forth. But take time in the Spirit. Be quiet and listen to the still small voice within. Feel your power. No, you're not alone. Know that. Think it through. In fact, you can go to the very end. Think of the worst thing that can happen and the very best thing that can happen. And then pray about it. A simple prayer. Help me to release those things, people, places that no longer serve me and move into new opportunities. It's a simple prayer that denies your limitations, opens your world of possibilities. To everything, there is a purpose under heaven. I hope this message inspires you and encourages you to encourage others. And be kind to yourself and be kind to one another. Thank you. From the Unity Spiritual Center, I'm Janie Glenn. And please join us in this precious meditation as we think over all that we heard today.
Okay, get comfortable. Take a deep breath. And exhale that which you don't need anymore. That carbon dioxide, that tension. With each breath, do it a little more and a little more. Let go of the drama in your life. Let go of the anxiety. And now I'd like for you to just open your mind, kind of put everything else in a little box and leave it there, and open your mind to what God has in mind for you. What is your deepest desire and how God wants that for you, and the steps that you can take. So let's listen to God for a few minutes. Paramahansa Yogananda used to say, read a little, meditate more, and talk with God all the time. And now, I'd like to thank you for joining our celebration service today. This is brought to you courtesy of Unity Spiritual Center, West Texas. Your generosity supports this ministry and the live videos that we have. If you wish to contribute, if you feel moved to, you can go to our website, www.unityofwesttexas.org, and there are several donate buttons on the different pages. Or you can go to the top of this Facebook page, and if you're on the Unity page, you can hit Learn More, and it will take you to Square, where you can make a donation. Join Amazon Smiles and choose us as the charity you support. That is the biggest help, because you don't pay anything and we benefit. That is just so awesome, because the Amazon Smiles Foundation has accepted us as a charity that can be supported. So once again, thank you for choosing to be with us today, and may the light of God continue to shine through you. Namaste.